Will Teresa find Guts? You all remember Teresa, the daughter of the Slug Count, the young girl who told him that the next time she sees our protagonist, she will kill him. This may seem very long ago. If you haven't reread The Black Swordsman, you may have forgotten that this was a character that had these thoughts, had these lines. Many people, when they talk about the ending of Berserk, do seem to mention Teresa a lot, that she still has a part to play in the story. And I think it's going to be interesting to talk about and try and figure out what part she has to play and why it's important to the story for her to return. So bear with me as I try and update you on what it is and why I think Teresa has this huge part to play in the future of Berserk. Teresa is the daughter of the Slug Count. We first meet her in the Black Swordsman arc many years ago. This is around the 2-year period that Guts was enacting his journey of revenge, his endless nights of fighting continuously. This is not so long after he's been with Puck for maybe a bit, but at the time he still calls him Bug, he still disregards him, he still doesn't want to be near him. He goes to a city and directly confronts the Count in a courtyard, taking the blood of his brand and showing that he will kill him. The Count then takes the head of a woman they just beheaded for being a heretic and squeezes it completely to crush it. Is very amazing. Regardless, along this time, Guts tries and learns ways to get to the Count so that he can kill him, because he knows for a fact that the Count is an apostle. Through some circumstances, Puck is captured and taken to Teresa, who the Count has decided to keep her locked in a tower for many years, ever since her mother mysteriously died. We later find out through the God Hand that it was in fact the Count who sacrificed Teresa's mother so he could become an apostle, because he didn't have the will to kill her himself, but he wished to die. But it's at that moment that the Bailet was activated, in which he sacrificed her. Teresa, having experienced all this trauma, which in a way was a catalyst of Guts being there to kill the Count, was something that she couldn't handle. Beforehand, she was locked in her tower, and through Puck learned that there were so many things outside in the world she wanted to see. Being locked in that room for so long, you start to get a syndrome of wanting to see the outside, the true outside, the world out there that is apparently too dangerous for her to even go out. It's an interesting archetype. We've seen it before in fairy tales and other stories involving fantasy. The young princess or aristocrat who is kept within the walls for so long that you know that they can't handle the outside world. But the challenge of doing that is a story in itself. The exact opposite happens with Teresa. After she learns of all the things that happen with the God Hand, the truth about her father, all these terrifying images and monsters that she's seen, the monster that her father was, and the truth about her mother, she breaks down so much that she even screams she wishes to be back in her room, safe from the outside world, safe from this horrific world that surrounds her. You can apply it to a loss of innocence. Every single person watching this video, whatever age, if you're really young or if you're much older, will go through a period where you realize that the world is a brutal, harsh place and that there aren't many things to keep you safe, not really, besides a couple of walls and a couple of doors. Regardless, the world outside is unforgiving and harsh and doesn't care who you are or what you want. And it is always a struggle to choose to let yourself out there and be exposed and vulnerable. And it's also a loss to keep yourself in because you don't experience anything new. It's a very hard balance sometimes for some people. But Teresa exclaims that she wants to go back and she almost can't take the reality of the world that she lives in. So much so that she decides and even contemplates suicide with a dagger. Guts then even says to her, which Puck takes unbelievably harsh, and he tells her to kill herself. Now, this at first can seem extremely harsh and terrible, but at the same time, Guts is saying that if you really wanted to die, you would have done it by now, which implies that you do want to live. And she does, and Guts even saves her, cutting her hands by holding her with his sword, but regardless, she lives. She chooses to have a life. She chooses not death. And in this moment, she finds the reason why she doesn't want to die. Fortunately, it's the worst one: revenge. Like Guts, Teresa exclaims that all of this happened because he arrived. He arrived in this place and destroyed everything she knew, everything she loved. She had this perfect image of what the world was, although it wasn't perfect being locked in a tower. She almost wishes she could go back to that. And Guts has come in, destroyed everything, shattered every window she had, and shattered every kind of expectation of what the world was. Inadvertently, but regardless, she blames him. She exclaims harshly that she hates him and that she will kill him. She vows to. Guts remarks that now she has a reason to live. Similar to him, his whole reason for living at that point is to kill apostles and find Griffith. That's the only thing that's keeping him on his legs. And he remarks and takes it in stride, acting like, I'll be waiting. You come find me. I'll be there. Essentially goading her into wanting to pursue this revenge against him, knowing that one day she might rock up one day and try and kill him. And he thinks that he's done a good job, or he's trying to hide the pain, but we all know that infamous panel, as soon as Puck sees his face, he's crying. I think he realizes in that moment that even though she is someone who is now free and has a purpose to move on in this harsh world, he's given her the exact same purpose that I think he himself doesn't want. He always wanted a dream. Guts is someone who left the Band of the Hook because he wanted to find his own dream. He didn't want to follow someone else's. He felt like he had something inside him that could be fulfilled, and he could find his own dream one day. He could be the person he wanted to be. And then that went to shit for many different reasons and obvious ones. Now he spends the rest of his life chasing this one vengeful idea against this one man that changed everything. I think deep down Guts realizes that he has now done this to someone else. This young girl has a reason to live, yes, but now she is gonna grow up to be just like him. I think Guts knows deep down that that's not what he wants. I think that's fucked up that he knows that. He's saddened by that. So where does this put us for Teresa? Because that was many years ago. It has been a lot of time. Let's say it's been a year since Lost Children. It's been one whole year since Lost Children, especially in Elfhelm, time has passed. Depending on when they leave Elfhelm, many years could have gone by. Falconia could have flourished, people could have grown up. Teresa at the time of the Black Swordsman is in her teenage years. Her age is not verified in any way for us to judge by the years how old she would be in the current timeline of the manga. But let's say, for example, many years have passed during their stay at Elfhelm. Many years. And they go back into the outside world of Midland and find that Falconia has flourished as a large city. The rest of Midland has turned into this huge metropolis of a kingdom. The Kushan Empire has fallen. A lot's changed. And in that time, Teresa has honed her skills as a warrior. And she is still set out to try and find that man that ruined her life. Based on what we know and the possible theories of where Griffith is going to take Casca as of this recording, things may have changed slightly, but if I'm to be correct in my assumption, Griffith is taking Casca to Falconia for the reason of the Moonlight Child, so he doesn't have to go anywhere. Which would imply that our party need to go to Falconia to save her. Falconia, depending on how much time has passed, is probably still the huge bustling hub it was when we last saw it. And during that time, I imagine a lot of people from many different parts of Midland's kingdom have gone to this place, flourish, survive, but also look for people. Wouldn't surprise me if when they finally decide to go to Falconia and find them, that we meet an older Teresa who is trying to find a man called the Black Swordsman. She knows he's called the Black Swordsman. The Count called her that, so he knows a name. She knows what Puck looks like. So it wouldn't be hard for her to see Puck or see Guts and tell exactly or hear what they look like and figure out where they're gonna go. The closer we get to every new chapter, the more I think it's not even 500, it's maybe even more. And when I think of the story and the themes, I do think of Teresa, especially when it comes to the end. There's a really famous theory, at least that I've seen many times said, and also a video I've posted on my channel myself. There's this theory that I really love, and I think it would be the ideal ending. Teresa eventually finds Guts again when he's older. At the end of the story, having a family, having peace, having accomplished a dream, and has lived out his years to his elderly age, almost as old as Godo. She finds him and tells him that she's finally found him to kill him. But instead of killing him straight away, he even says, I'll tell you my story first. And he tells the story, and at the end she has to decide what to do. She looks at her sword, and that sword is the final frame of the story. And I think that's a perfect way to end off Berserk. Despite maybe even the specifics of the story we don't even know yet, based on the knowledge I know and the story and the themes and what the story's trying to say, that ending makes sense to me. But if Teresa were to be a character that isn't just kept until the very ending in some theory that may or may not even happen, but implemented into the main story and interacting with Guts in another way, I think would actually be more benefiting to the story. Because let's not forget that Guts has done some awful things, and there's some stuff that maybe he regrets, but he hasn't been redeemed by them yet. Jill is someone who does not hold any hard feelings against Guts, but Teresa does. Teresa is a child that's been affected by his actions, and it's not easy for someone like that to forgive. If it comes to a scene where Teresa and Guts find each other again, and she vows that I'm going to kill you, and that's why she's here, that's why she's gone to find him, I think would open up the story to a whole other complex of issues, because Guts, I think, fails to realize sometimes that even though he's someone who doesn't like people who whine and pray, and he admires people who strive through life and just try their hardest to live and are survivors, he also has to realize that he has the power to help people survive. And if he chooses not to, and he chooses not to be that helping hand, sometimes he creates worse things, versions of him. And I think he'll see that if he saw Teresa, that young girl, he'll realize he created another him, and that sadness will come back. Guts needs to achieve his dream. He needs to achieve the peace. He needs to achieve the idea that he doesn't need revenge, but care for the people that care for him. Take care of them. Engage in camaraderie. I think that's one of the main things that Teresa can be used in the story to help redeem Guts even more. We already know that Guts is not the same person as he was when he was younger, and definitely when he was the main Black Swordsman in his darkest arc. It was 2 years. But he knows that was a part of him. He left the person he cared about alone. He left for his own selfish reasons. And now, looking back, I'm sure he would probably see those actions as something that are irredeemable. But if he chooses to try and redeem himself, it would show his character even more. And that's why Teresa should be implemented back into the story. Eventually, I hope. I think it'll be something that will be really awesome and telling. And I would love it even more if we didn't even recognize her when we saw her. Oh god, I'm just thinking about it, I get so excited. Tell me what you guys think. That's my theory of will Teresa ever find Guts and how it will happen, how it will go down. And there's many different ways it could go down. We have a lot of different options, a lot of different groups and parties and characters, and many new characters we haven't seen or even know about yet. But that's just my thoughts. What do you guys think? You let me know in the comments. But that's all from me, guys. I appreciate if you made it to the end of the video. Please give a like, subscribe, all that good shit. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. My name's Mugen. As always, have a good one.